Hello, social media. How are you doing? YouTube and Facebook. For those of you that will be seeing it, we are Greg and Yolanda Farmer. We are Keepers of the Ring. We apologize for a 33-minute delay of coming live with our four seasons, our live feed of Keepers of the Ring. We're going to introduce you real quick into the fall. Go ahead and blame it on my eye. I am in recovery mode, and Sweetie had let me know that sometime this week we would have to go into doing a live feed because we've gotten in the habit of coming on at 6 o'clock every Sunday. Me being the type of soldier Marine that I am, I do not want to wait and go into something quote unquote that I can take care of today. So you're going to hear a little bit more of Yolanda. If I,
So you're not trying to look like Kumo D on this evening?
I am, yeah. How you like me now? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not purposely trying to look like Kumo D. I have to wear these when I'm in around the light. And plus, I feel that if I were to go live and you all would have seen my face, you'd probably be like, "Ooh,
Oh no.
what did he do to
We
her?
wouldn't do
What
that.
did he do to her?" That's just a social media LOL.
We wouldn't
So
do that.
if you guys happen to see me come off the screen and my head is down, I'm only doing what the doctors asked me to do. But we're going to go ahead and move quickly. Excuse me, we're going to move into, not quickly, we're going to move into the last season that we discussed. And like normal, what Yolanda does, she'll review with you the seasons beforehand and what the attitudes and emotions look like.
So hi, good evening again. I'm Yolanda. And just as a review for those of you that maybe have not seen the other clips, we are talking about the seasons of marriage, and today we're going to talk about the fall. But we've talked about the winter, and in the winter, it's a season of marriage created not by the difficulties of life, but by the manner in which a couple responds to those difficulties. And then the emotions of winter is hurt, anger, disappointment, loneliness, and feeling rejected. The attitudes that you see while in winter is negativity, discouragement, frustration, and hopelessness. Actions are destructive, speaking harshly and not speaking at all, withdrawal and violent acts. So, what is the climate of the relationship? It's detached, cold, harsh, and bitter. Just always want you to be reminded that there is a positive side to the winter. The marriage may appear beyond hope, but don't give up. Often couples are desperate enough to seek help for healing, and God can use marital winters for good.
The key there, you all, is just to always remember that during the cold of your marriage, when things seem hopeless, that is the time where God can move. With man, where things seem to be impossible, that's an arena, an environment for God to to bring about possibilities that will explode and blow your mind. The key is to not be ashamed, and this is to the Christian couples. The key is to not be ashamed. Really, this is to couples, period. But really, I have a heart and a passion to really challenge the cognitions of those that say they believe in God and that they follow Christ. Do not lessen the chance or the need for seeking counsel. Sound counsel. Someone that you can speak to as husband and wife that can help thaw out some of the coldness of the winter of your marriage.
Right. Then we went over spring. The spring is a season of new beginnings where most marriages begin. The emotions that we see here are excitement, joy, and hope. Attitudes are anticipation, optimism, gratitude, love, and trust. The actions that we see is nurturing, planning, communicating, seeking help when needed. The climate of the relationship is vital, tender, open, and caring. And then there is a downside to spring. There's the unexpected and unannounced irritations that can ruin a perfect vacation or turn a fine dinner into an emotional fiasco. That's the spring.
The key with the spring, I would like for you all to remember as the masculine part of Team Farmer, is that those unmet irritations and agitations between the husband and wife toward each other, they come about because what we do with not intentional, but I believe what we do unaware, we sweep those agitations under the rug because we want to avoid conflict. We don't want to have another disagreement. We don't want to have another argument. Listen, intense subject matter in the marriage relationship requires intense conversation. You have to talk about it. And the major part of talking is the listening piece. So my brother and my sister, you cannot monopolize a conversation by talking all the time without listening. There are actual wars that have been averted throughout our history because of these kind of talks, peace talks, where the heads of countries or the representatives of the countries sat down, talked with someone that was neutral, and they were able to come to a resolve before full out war broke out. If that can be done between countries on the brink of war, it can be done between a husband and a wife, a man and a woman on the brink of intense arguments.
Right. So that's the spring. Then we talked about last week was the summer. The summer season is when the gardener reaps the benefits of what was planted and nurtured in the spring. The emotions are happiness, satisfaction, accomplishment, connection, peace, and fun. The attitudes are trust, commitment to grow, relaxed, and a positive attitude. The actions that you see during the summer is communicating constructively, accepting differences, praying together, attending seminars, reading and listening to books, and growing spiritually. The climate of the relationship is comfortable, attached, supportive, and understanding. Now, there is a downside to summer. You could have unseen level in our marriage where we have pushed unresolved issues. Somewhat what Apostle Greg just said earlier about we didn't resolve things when they were small. We just kind of overlooked it. Possibly we were in the springtime and we didn't want to address it because we didn't want to ruin what appeared to be the happy time. Had those little irritations popped up, when the little irritations popped up, we didn't discuss, we didn't say what irritated us. We just kind of pushed it aside, and now it comes up and it comes up again, and now it's a bigger issue, and now I'm talking about things that happened months ago.
Right.
It's not necessarily relevant. Now I'm bringing up months worth of issues.
Right. And for your consideration, we have observed and noticed the Christian community, the church community, the couples inside the four walls of the church, whether you are in the pulpit, a ministry team, or whether you're just a husband and wife that comes to the church and you have a different function of leadership within the church. Here's what we've noticed. The church was never designed to be a scapegoat. The church was never put in place for us to go there as husband and wife, having marital issues or challenges, and then hide out. And what do I mean? What does Apostle Greg mean? What do I mean when I say and hide out? Since you want to know, I'll tell you. It doesn't mean that we go there and we hide out in our praise, in our worship, in the preaching of the gospel, in the teaching of Bible study, in the teaching of Sunday school, leading on the praise and worship team, in the various capacities that a local church can have. You don't go to the church and be able to hear a word from God, but then not have the capability or the capacity to hear God say to you, now is the time when you're in your home to sit down with your wife or your husband, make a nice meal, or don't make a nice meal, go on a date, catch a movie. Right. And I know that there's some believers out there that don't do the whole movie thing. I'm not getting into all that. If a movie causes y'all to go to hell, I wonder if you really had a true God encounter. What I'm saying when I say go to the movies, go out. Go to the movie. Go downtown.
Right.
If they got something in the park, go out to the park. Do something different to keep your relationship alive.
Intentional.
Be intentional with your love for each other. And what I mean by that, and I'm not talking about, and I don't mean to offend you, this ain't medication and this is not surgery talking. This is straight AG. I don't mean to offend you, but listen to what I'm saying. I'm not talking about where you speak in tongues to each other, okay? Where you talking about my husband or my wife speaks life to me because they gave me a prophetic word. I'm talking about the plain, raw, real realities of living with the person that you said I do to, okay? Just because you're in the ministry, and just because you call to preach the gospel, and just because you are a lover of God, and just because Christ is your Lord and Savior, don't mean that there's sometimes, as you go through these seasons of marriages, that you need to sit down and address issues on a consistent basis. The issues internally, you, and then the issues that relate to the marriage.
Definitely. So that is the summer. So now it brings us to the fall, what we're ready for. So what is the fall time? The fall is the most colorful season of the year.
Excuse me.
It's a prelude to winter, right? We already talked about winter, but the fall leads you into it. Soon the chilling winds will rip off the leaves, leaving the tree bare. What do the emotions look like in the fall? It's fear, sadness, confused, frustrated, dejection, apprehension, discouragement, resentment, unappreciated, and emotionally depleted.
You're drained.
Ooh,
You're tired.
that's a lot.
You're tired.
That's a
You're
lot.
exhausted. As a husband and or a wife in the fall
That's
of
a lot.
marriage, you are emotionally depleted.
Man, that's a lot. I've been there. I've been there with
I've
those
been there.
emotions. The attitude is great concern, uncertainty, blaming, and disengagement. Blaming.
Hmm?
Oh,
The
I
blame-
stand a witness to that
I
one.
witness with you. The blame game. You start
Yeah.
tit for tat. You start pointing to each other. The reason why we are where we are, the reason why the marriage is the way it is, the problem with the marriage, it's Yolanda's fault.
Yeah.
And from Yolanda, it would be Greg's fault. And neither one of us are sitting down and addressing. When we went to church and we heard our apostle preach, okay, we witnessed the word, we witnessed the truth of the word, but we didn't let the truth of the word witness to where we were.
Right, right. You know, I look back and I'm looking at the emotions and then the attitudes. The emotions, because we know emotions are given to us by God, so it's nothing wrong with the emotions. But then what do we do with it? As it stated, the attitude that we take on. So in our frustration and our fear, and the fear is to take it a little bit further, we become fearful of where our relationship is going. We start recognizing that this doesn't feel like it used to. And as quiet as it may be kept, we like to feel a certain type of way. We know when the climate of our relationship has changed. And normally what we tend to do, instead of looking at ourselves, I'll use me as an example. Early on, I did not look at myself. I did not take an assessment of what am I doing here that has caused the climate of my relationship to change. I started to blame, which is why I said, the attitude is definitely, I can relate. I started to say, if Greg would do this, if Greg would do that. I even told them this morning at church, I remember the phrase that I said, my life was fine until I met you. Of course, when did that come out of my mouth? Obviously during either a fall or a winter season. I wasn't feeling like things were well. I wasn't believing that what I had planted now is coming back up and all these other things. I didn't know all of that. I blamed him. I had disengagement because now that you're not doing what I want you to do, I'm going to disengage.
And the reason why there was such blame, social media, was because what she planted did not come up and grow, and the harvest that she expected to reap, it did not look the way she thought it should look, and vice versa. I understand, or I remember from the fearful place. I used to be afraid to say things to her because I recognized in the early stages, she was just right, perfect. I used to call her Jesus' sister. She used to be so haughty. She thought high of herself. Nobody in her sphere, in her family, nobody on her jobs would ever point out to her the errors of her ways. So then when I would point them out, okay, if I pointed them out directly, bluntly, brash, harsh, if my voice level was on 10, it doesn't matter how I done it. Whenever I spoke to her, I always got this resistance from her as though what I'm saying to her can't be so, because I'm saying to her how I see her as a wife. How I'm saying I see her as a wife goes opposite of how she saw herself. So therefore, when I'm speaking to her in this fall time, I became fearful, not fearful of her. I became fearful of myself, because if I can be honest with you, as a man, and I can't speak for no other man that will see this, so I will speak as one. After a while, you get sick and tired, especially being the type of man I am, the warrior, the fighter, the alpha male. I prefer to go to the throat of a matter. I'm not afraid to confront. I'm not afraid to deal with the conflict. After a while, I became afraid of myself. Became afraid of myself on how I would respond and react if I put forth the effort to say what it is she wants me to say, and then she is in outright total resistance and denial of what it is that I'm saying, even when I communicated to her in a way she wanted me to. So you see, in this season, I became fearful. Where I am now after our extramarital affairs, I tell her I'm not afraid of her anymore. What I mean by that is I learned that it wasn't her, Yolanda the flesh, it was a spirit that I was fearful of. She, in her flesh, from my perspective and observation, has matured and grown up a lot. She takes ownership a lot of her own actions and behavior. So therefore, when I speak to her, sometimes I'm not speaking to her, pointing something out to her. I'm speaking to her, confirming what she already kind of said to herself. It becomes easier when you're in a relationship with somebody and you communicate that the actions or the behaviors or the expectation is not met. when you're with someone who's mature enough to take ownership, and that goes vice versa. So I've learned on my end, make certain that you've at least put forth the effort to not give her ammunition to use in the weapon that you gave over to her. If she wants you to talk a certain kind of way and you care enough for her, talk the way she wants you to talk. And then if it starts to go south, table the conversation. Because I can't yell her into listening. I can't yell her into understanding. That doesn't work.
So that was the attitudes. Actions. What type of actions do we see in the fall? Neglect of each other. Failure to seek resolution of issues. No action at all.
Neglect of each other. I became neglectful of Yolanda because I neglected myself. Neglect of each other. What was the other one, Yolanda? Neglect of each other.
No action at all.
No action at all.
Failure to seek resolution.
And please let me help you understand. Going to church a lot is no action at all. Going to your job, if you happen to be pastors that will see this, I want to challenge your cognitions. Being at church all the time and not addressing marital issues, that's no, what was it again, Yolanda?
No, seeking no action, no resolution.
No resolution at all.
Seeking no resolution. You know, let me throw something out there. Since we're talking about, you know, if you are a pastor or if you're a leader in the church, we oftentimes are able to see if someone is finding themselves leaning toward an individual at work. We often tell people, beware when you find inside of yourself where you want to walk by John's desk because you feel a certain way when John comments on or compliments you. You know, we think that those things are setting ourselves up for relationships. I say woe unto you if you find yourself that you want to run to church all the time because someone gives you some compliment or someone feeds a part of you, whether it be the pastor. If you are the pastor and your congregation feeds you something that you feel that you're missing, and so since your husband or your wife don't provide you with compliments and you feel you need it, you run to the church because they give it to you there. I say woe unto you. That's a sign. That is an issue. And as it says, that is not seeking to resolve the issue. And
it doesn't mean just we want to make sure we're clear when we're saying pastor. We're saying pastors because we pastor. Okay, we're talking about if you are a believer and you find yourself a husband or wife.
Can I interrupt you?
And hold on, and you're going to the church. If you're going to the church because something is satisfied in you by someone else of the opposite sex in the church, that's what we say in woe. Pull back on them reins and hold that horse. Woe that horse, because you're moving in a direction that you need not be going, because you're going there because you're not resolving at home.
Right, and thank you for saying that. We are pastors as well, so definitely we are pastors. We're not saying that because we're pointing out pastors, but I do want to point out that pastors are people too.
Yes.
We are not exempt from the temptations and the tactics of the enemy that come at anybody else.
If you do not have solid foundation in your marriage as a pastor, male or female, it can happen without you even recognizing it. You will look for the gratification, the being made to feel good when you go to church by your congregation. Okay? You will do it. You will do it. Okay.
So the climate of the relationship is drifting apart, disengaging emotionally, and couples sense that something is happening but they're not sure what. Sense of detachment, feelings of neglect. Couples realize that there are issues that they're not facing squarely. Each blame the other for the issue. And if they have lived in the fall season for a while, their family and friends may begin to recognize changes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You got to make the most of the fall. Couples are usually in the early stages of fall before they realize it. They have been busy with activities, could be children, I just threw that out there, enjoying life, but sometimes ignoring each other. They are living in the afterglow of summer, but each is slowly disengaging. The uncertainties of fall can be redemptive if they turn in the right direction. Couples can end up in the winter if they let nature take its course.
And the key here I want to point out to you is what's amazing to me. I've seen it over the years. I've seen it with myself. I've seen it since we've been keepers of the ring for over 20 some odd years now. It is amazing how couples think their disengagement or their disconnect is not seen by other people. It blows my mind. It baffles me. It baffles
Me
me.
too.
It baffles my mind that couples, when they disengage and disconnect, when we go to church, when we have church functions, okay? And I know I might be bothering you when I say church and church functions, but let me word you right quick. God's judgment is going to begin at the house of God. And if the righteous are scarcely saved, where will the ungodly and the sinner appear? Check this out. If we want to see a change in the world, we have to see a change in the church. I like to submit to you this: the sins of the world do not hurt God's heart like the sins of the church. Now, that might be a little heavy for some of you, but I'm the type of cat that I talk straight and I talk direct, and I'm about to hit 50 years old. I like how I am. I'm comfortable with me, and I'm not changing. This is it. Unless the good Lord tell me to change, this is it. I'm not for everybody. I'm for the bodies that I'm for. For married couples that have disengaged, that think you're not seen, you are seen. The fake smiles are seen. The fake hugs are seen. That is not the type of marriage relationship that God has desired or intended. I like that word better. That He intended for us to have. And please understand, I'm tooting my
Intended
own
nor
horn.
desired.
Correct.
They're both correct.
I'm tooting my own horn. This was me and Yolanda.
Yes.
This was us. So I'm talking from the place of us. I'm not trying to put nobody down.
No.
I'm talking from the place of us. So when
And
you
there's nothing new under the sun. So if we experienced it, we know it is being experienced somewhere else.
Okay, so this pseudo love, this pseudo admiration, this pseudo respect, this pseudo humility and submission that husbands and wives give to each other, and it's not genuine. There are too many husbands and wives right now. You may not do a like on YouTube. You may not do a like on social media, Facebook. There are too many husbands and wives right now that feel no love. They are depressed. They are disengaged. They are disconnected, and they are just names on a paper by marriage. And that is not what God, the creator of marriage, intended. But see them in church, see them at a program, see them at a conference, give them a microphone in the pulpit. They done preach fire down, and they preach with a mighty power. But yet when it comes to say, love you, good morning, good night, or to address difficult issues in their marriage, now they got a problem. Sweetheart, close us out.
Right. So that just completes the 4th season of marriage. And so we will be back next week. And we will let you know where we're going to pick up, whether we do a full review and a recap, or if we start on something new. We will let you know at that time. But thank you so very much. Thank you, AG, for coming on after surgery. I do ask that you all that view and watch us continue to pray for us as we continue to do what we believe God is telling us to do concerning marriages and family. We love you all. Thank you and have a good evening.
I'm asking that you would subscribe, okay? Please subscribe to our channel and share it. When you see it on Facebook, if you would go to our Keepers of the Ring page and become a friend, and then share it with some of your couple friends that you may have as friends on your Facebook page. Our goal is to empower, impart, and to just motivate and move marriage in the direction that God intended them to be. You work your marriage, and your marriage will work for you. And I'm out. What is it?
Are you sure?